"Who's the lady at the gate?" Someone laughed from inside the yard. That lady was me. And the house they were partying in? Also mine. Music thumped from the backyard. Voices overlapped. Glasses clinked. From the sidewalk, I could see balloons spelling out "Welcome Home," swaying over the porch. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I gripped the strap of my purse tighter, forcing a smile for the security guard who had just waved a BMW full of guests inside. "I'm the owner," I said evenly. He blinked. "Oh, your parents said it was their event, ma'am. Family housewarming." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, it's quite a story." I walked past him before he could speak again, my heels echoing on the driveway I'd spent years dreaming about, every square foot bought with my sleepless nights. Through the wide glass doors, I saw my mother, Linda, gliding between guests with a wine glass in her hand, looking radiant, like she belonged there more than anyone. Dad stood near the kitchen island, bragging loudly about our daughter's success. For a moment, my throat tightened. I'd done everything for them. 5 years of mortgage payments on their house after Dad lost his job. I never asked for thanks. I just wanted peace. But when I told them last week I'd finally bought my own place, they barely reacted. "Oh, that's nice, honey." Now here they were, throwing a party in it, without even telling me. I pushed the door open. The chatter faltered. My mother turned, mid-laugh, her face freezing like a snapshot. "Savannah?" "Hi, Mom." My voice came out calm, too calm. She blinked rapidly, recovering. "Oh. We didn't think you'd make it so early." "Early?" I stepped inside, scanning the unfamiliar faces lounging on my furniture. "That's funny. I didn't even get an invite." A few guests exchanged looks. Someone whispered, "Wait, she owns the place?" Dad hurried over, all nervous charm. "Sweetheart, relax. We're just having a small family get-together to celebrate your success. You've been working so hard. You deserve it." I gave a slow smile. "So, I deserve a party in my own house that I wasn't invited to?" He chuckled weakly. "Don't make a big deal out of it. It's just family." My mother placed a manicured hand on my arm. "Savannah, please. Don't be dramatic. Everyone's having such a good time." Her perfume hit me like déjà vu, lavender and manipulation. I looked at her hand, then at her eyes. "Mom, you're standing in a house you didn't buy, hosting guests you didn't invite, drinking wine I paid for." "Savannah," she hissed, her smile fixed for the crowd, "don't embarrass us in front of people." I leaned in slightly, my tone quiet but sharp. "You embarrassed yourselves the second you pretended this was yours." Dad's voice hardened. "We're your parents. Show some respect." I laughed under my breath. "Respect isn't ownership, Dad. And you're in my living room." Before he could respond, my phone buzzed. 2 words flashed on the screen from the private security company I'd hired the day I closed on the property. "Arriving now." I straightened. "You know," I said casually, "I really do appreciate you both breaking in like this." It made something clear. Mom frowned. "What are you talking about?" I met her gaze. "How easily you forget who built the foundation you're standing on." And right then, 2 uniformed guards stepped through the front door. The air thickened. Conversations died. Mom's voice went thin. "Savannah, what's happening?" I gave her that same smile she'd given me when I was 16 and begging her to stay for my school recital. Polite, perfect, empty. "Don't worry, Mom," I said softly. "It's just a little housewarming surprise." The guards stepped into the hallway, their black uniforms crisp under the chandelier light. The taller one gave a small nod. "Evening, Ms. Barnes. You wanted a property check." Dozens of heads turned. My mother's fake smile stiffened. My father's jaw tensed. "Property check," she repeated, her voice trembling between confusion and anger. "Savannah, what are you doing?" I took a step back, giving them both space to feel the unease. "Just making sure everything's in order," I said calmly. Wouldn't want anyone here who doesn't belong. One of the guests, a nosy cousin I hadn't spoken to in years, laughed nervously. Come on, Savannah, lighten up. It's a celebration. I looked at her. A celebration I wasn't invited to, in my own home. Forgive me if I don't feel festive. Dad's voice cut through the silence. Savannah, you're being childish. We're your parents. You think we'd need permission to be here? Actually, I said, my tone icy but controlled. Yes. Because it's trespassing when someone throws a party in a house that isn't theirs. The room went pin-drop quiet. Mom blinked rapidly, her voice rising. Trespassing? You can't be serious. Completely serious, I replied. You signed nothing. You paid nothing. The deed's under my name, and the locks were changed before you came in. Her glass slipped from her hand, shattering against the marble floor. The sound made a few people flinch. I didn't move. Don't worry, I'll clean it up. Like I always did. Dad's face turned red. You're out of line, young lady. I stared him down. Out of line? You took thousands from me every month for 5 years, told me it was for the family, and now you're standing here pretending this house is yours. You didn't even bother to ask before you walked in. He clenched his fists. We're your parents. You owe us respect. I already paid respect, I snapped. Every single month. It was called a mortgage payment. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A few guests awkwardly started edging toward the door, realizing this wasn't the kind of housewarming they'd signed up for. Mom's lips quivered. Savannah, please. Don't do this in front of everyone. Do what? I asked, stepping closer. Tell the truth. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You're humiliating us. I tilted my head slightly. You did that yourself the second you told me. Guests only. Her face went pale. What? I turned toward the crowd, raising my voice just enough to be heard. When I got here, she told me this party was for guests only. That I wasn't invited. A murmur swept through the guests. Mom's composure cracked. I didn't mean it like that. Oh, I think you did, I said quietly. You just forgot who signs the checks now. The guard stood by, uncertain whether to step in, until I gestured slightly. Gentlemen, I said, my tone level. Please clear the property of anyone not on my approved list. If their name isn't on it, they need to leave. Mom's eyes widened. Savannah, stop this madness right now. Sorry, I said, forcing a faint smile. I'd hate to break HOA rules. Unauthorized gatherings can be grounds for penalties. The guards began politely escorting guests toward the door. What is this, some kind of revenge? Dad barked. I turned to him, meeting his glare with calm finality. No. This is closure. He shook his head, laughing bitterly. We did everything for you. Everything. My voice cracked. You called me ungrateful when I took a second job. You mocked me for renting a 1-bedroom while I was paying off your 5-bedroom mortgage. You used me like a safety net, and then threw me away the second I stood on my own. He opened his mouth to speak, but the guard's presence silenced him. Mom's voice wavered. You'll regret this, Savannah. You can't erase us. I don't want to erase you, I said quietly. I just want to stop being your hater. She froze, her eyes wet, but I didn't look away. The younger guard motioned gently toward the front. Ma'am, sir, if you'd follow me, please. They hesitated, stunned, until one of the guests whispered, Maybe we should go. And just like that, the mighty hosts of the evening, the people who'd once controlled every aspect of my life, walked down the steps of my porch, faces tight with disbelief. As the front door closed, the house fell into an eerie silence. I stood there, breathing in the scent of fresh paint, lavender candles, and new beginnings. One of the guards turned to me. Ma'am, you want us to stay? I shook my head. No. I've got it from here. They nodded and left quietly. For a long moment, I stood alone in the middle of the chaos, half-empty glasses, lipstick-stained napkins, heels abandoned by the door. It should have felt cold, but it didn't. It felt like freedom. I walked to the window, looking out at my parents standing by the curb, speechless under the porch lights. My father's shoulders were slumped. My mother's arms were crossed, face turned away. 5 years of exhaustion, guilt, and quiet resentment lifted like smoke. I whispered to myself, guests only, right? And for the first time I smiled, not out of revenge, but relief. The next morning, sunlight poured through the tall windows, brushing across half-empty wine glasses and trampled confetti like the aftermath of a storm. My house, my first real home, looked like it had survived a hurricane of expensive perfume and fake laughter. I moved quietly through the mess, barefoot, coffee mug in hand. Each step echoed with memories of last night, my parents' faces, the silence when I'd said the words trespassing, the look of betrayal twisting through my mother's eyes. Some part of me still wished they had understood. But maybe understanding wasn't in their nature. I sat at the kitchen island, the one I'd built piece by piece from overtime pay, and stared at the untouched cake on the counter. The golden frosting red for the new homeowners. I almost laughed. Plural, I muttered to myself. They really thought it was theirs. My phone buzzed. A dozen missed calls from Mom. A few from Dad. One texted out. You embarrassed us. We just wanted to celebrate. Don't contact us until you learn some humility. Humility. That was the word they always used when I started asking for boundaries. I took a deep breath, set my mug down, and started cleaning. Wine bottles in the trash. Balloons popped. Empty glasses stacked. Every motion was slow and deliberate, almost therapeutic. I wasn't cleaning up their mess anymore. I was reclaiming my space. When I reached the living room, I found something on the sofa, a photo frame from their old house. My parents and I, taken years ago, all smiles in matching sweaters. I picked it up, tracing the glass with my thumb. 5 years ago, I would have done anything for them. I thought that's what love meant, sacrifice without limits. I worked 2 jobs, missed birthdays, ignored migraines, just to make sure they never lost their home. I told myself it was worth it if it kept us together. But love without respect is just debt wearing a disguise. A knock on the door startled me. I opened it to find Maya, my best friend since college, holding a takeout bag and a knowing smile. Breakfast delivery for the most talked-about homeowner in town, she teased. I stepped aside. You heard? Half the neighborhood did, she said, setting the bag down. Someone's Aunt Liv streamed the whole thing on Facebook. I groaned. Of course she did. Maya smirked. You looked calm, though. Like some kind of suburban mafia boss calmly evicting people in heels. That's because my legs were shaking under the table, I admitted. Her tone softened. How are you feeling? I exhaled slowly. Lighter. Angry. Sad. All of it. Maya handed me a coffee cup. You did the right thing. Then why does it feel wrong? Because good people always question themselves after doing what's necessary. I sank into a chair, staring out the window. I keep thinking about the look on Mom's face. It wasn't shock, it was disbelief. Like she genuinely thought I'd never say no to her. She spent your whole life training you to say yes, Maya said gently. Of course she was shocked. I took a sip of coffee. Do you know what hurts the most? I wasn't even angry at first. I was disappointed. I thought maybe they'd come and celebrate with me. Not without me. Maya nodded. They wanted the glory without the gratitude. We sat in silence for a while. Then, almost absently, I asked, Do you think I went too far? She smiled faintly. Save, you didn't scream. You didn't destroy anything. You just asked people who didn't respect you to leave your house. That's not too far. That's healthy. I looked around the room again, this time really seeing it. The hardwood floors gleamed. The morning air carried no tension, no fake politeness, no guilt. For the first time in years, the silence felt safe. My chest loosened. You know what's weird? I thought revenge would feel satisfying. But it doesn't. It feels like peace wearing the wrong clothes. Maya grinned. That's because it wasn't revenge. It was justice. I smiled faintly. Justice in heels. We both laughed, a sound that finally broke the heaviness hanging over me. Later that afternoon, when she left, I found myself standing outside, breathing in the cool suburban air. Across the street, a neighbor was trimming his hedges. He waved politely, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Maybe to him, nothing had. But for me, it was the first day of freedom. I walked down my driveway and sat on the front steps, letting the quiet hum of the world fill the space my parents used to occupy. Birds, distant traffic, the soft creak of the swing on my porch, ordinary things I'd missed while trying to please everyone else. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Mom. "We're disappointed in you. After everything we did, this is how you repay us?" I stared at it for a long time, thumb hovering over the keyboard, then finally typed. "After everything I did, this is how you respected me." I didn't hit send. Instead, I deleted it, locked the screen, and tossed the phone onto the chair beside me. Some words don't need to be said anymore. Some lessons don't need to be taught twice. I leaned back against the step, eyes closed, letting the sunlight fall over my face. The guilt, the exhaustion, the constant need to prove myself. It all began to melt away. They'd always believed control was love. But I was learning that peace, real peace, begins the moment you stop letting someone else define your worth. That night, I stood at my window, looking out at the dark street, and whispered to myself, soft but certain, "Guests only." This time I meant it. A week passed before I heard from them again. It came in the form of an envelope, slipped through the mail, slot one quiet morning. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. My mother's graceful, looping script that used to sign my school excuses and later, the checks I deposited for her bills. I stood there, letter in hand, the smell of fresh coffee mixing with a faint paper scent. My stomach twisted as I opened it. "Savannah, your father and I are still hurt by what happened. We were proud of you. We just wanted to share that moment with everyone. Maybe we went about it the wrong way, but you didn't have to humiliate us. You've changed. If you ever decide to talk like family again, you know where to find us." No sorry. No acknowledgement. Just blame wrapped in passive regret. I folded the letter once, twice, and slipped it into a drawer. It didn't make me angry this time, only tired. Tired of people who wanted the benefits of love without the responsibility of respect. That afternoon, I decided to make new memories. I called a few coworkers and neighbors who'd been kind to me when things were hard. "Come over," I said. Real housewarming this time. No surprises. By evening, my house buzzed again, but this time it felt right. Laughter echoed in the same rooms that had once held tension. The kitchen smelled like barbecue, music played from someone's phone, and my dog ran between legs, wagging his tail like a maniac. Maya showed up last, carrying a bouquet of yellow roses. "For peace," she said with a grin. "Peace deserves flowers," I replied, taking them. As the night unfolded, I stood by the back door, watching the warm lights flicker across smiling faces. People who'd shown up because they cared, not because they wanted to claim credit for my success. It hit me then, this wasn't revenge. This was reclamation. I wasn't punishing anyone. I was just finally living without apology. I walked to the center of the room and clinked my glass. The chatter died down, and everyone turned toward me. "I just wanted to say thank you," I began. "For being here, for real. For years, I thought home was something you built out of obligation. Turns out, it's something you build out of choice." Maya raised her glass. "To Savannah's freedom." Everyone cheered. I laughed, but a lump caught in my throat. "To freedom," I echoed. Later, when the guests had gone and the lights dimmed, I wandered into the hallway and stopped at the front door. I touched the handle, cold, metallic, firm, the same one my parents had tried to open like they still owned it. Now it felt different. "Mine." I locked it once, softly, then turned around and leaned against it, smiling through quiet tears. The house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt earned. I thought about my mother's words, "You've changed." Yes, I had. I wasn't the daughter who paid to be loved anymore. I wasn't the woman who confused sacrifice with belonging. I was simply someone who had learned that sometimes family isn't the people who share your blood. It's the ones who respect your boundaries. I looked up at the chandelier's reflection in the window. Bright, golden, unflinching. For 5 years, I kept paying for homes that weren't mine, I whispered. Now I'm finally inside one that is. Outside, a breeze rustled through the trees. The world didn't owe me peace. I'd built it, one hard choice at a time. And as the night settled into quiet, I left the porch light on, not for guests, not for apologies, but as a reminder to myself. I didn't need an invitation to belong here, because this time the key was mine.